Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for today. This episode of Her Version. This platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I am speaking with an amazing woman named Andrea Vallely from age 9, performing Hansel and Gretel to singing and acting her way to the University of Florida on a music scholarship. Andrea found the arts to be a wonderful means for bringing joy to audiences and fellow performers. Her performances had her rubbing elbows with popular artists such as Salt-N-Pepa, Freddie Jackson, and Crystal Waters. Her vocal talents and ability to connect with audiences led her to doing voice work, radio, and a successful career in marketing. Fast forward a few years, Andrea was suddenly facing challenges, including the illness and hospitalization of her father. It was in the waiting room of an intensive care unit filled with worry and stress and surrounded by negative news in the media and the world around her that Andrea knew her calling was to make a positive change in the environment. She became a spokesperson for happiness, faith, and optimism. Using her own experiences, Andrea created a formula for finding happiness. Yes. After a concentrated period of study, Andrea became a certified happiness coach, success coach. She is also certified in hypnosis, past life regression, and neurolinguistic programming. She is here today to share some of her awesome insight on finding happiness despite our story. Welcome, Andrea. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I haven't heard the Hansel and Gretel thing in a while.
That's funny. Yes, I thought that was cool. That's a
well, it was cool at the time, you know?
Yes. How old were you?
I was 9. But that was like my entry into I love the stage, you know, that whole thing. So
no kidding.
Yeah.
Anyone else in the family love the spotlight?
Not like me. Not like me. Yeah, I was probably the first, you know. I mean, my mom sang, you know, but not in the capacity that I did, where I actually had I had like my 15 minutes, I had a little career.
Yeah.
And then, and then life changes as it does.
Yeah, 100%. What about your kids? Anybody taking the stage?
So, yeah, my daughter loves the theater. She's a singer, but she doesn't do it for career, but she's always been involved in, the chorus and very involved in theater at school. But now she's more into photography and, again, like things change, but definitely she's got that artsy part to her.
I love it. Absolutely love it. I was super shy when I was little. So people look at me now and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe. Like sometimes every once in a while I'll get a message from somebody from like high school and they're like, I can't even believe all of the stuff that you're doing, because I was so shy the whole time, like all the way through to probably junior years when I finally kind of started to get a little bit of a voice. But so interesting how our so crazy. So I want to jump in. I want to jump in and I want to talk about your journey, your story, what you've gone through, where you are now, what you do for all of us humans. But I'd like to kind of start with, some of the challenges, a challenge, a story, a journey that you can share with us and that happened and what you were able to learn from that challenge.
Yeah, well, gosh, there have been many, because that's what life does. Life shows us what we're made of.
Yeah.
So I would say that the biggest one was, and I think I shared with you when you and I spoke before, I don't tell this story very often because, I don't want to hurt people that were involved, and I don't see it as my identity. However, I do see it as a huge awakening to what is possible for all of us. So I was in a relationship, and in the relationship, it came out that what I thought I was living and what was actually true were two very different things. So it was like I got this wake-up call via an email, basically saying that everything I thought was true in my life was a lie. So the person that I was with was not the person who I thought I was with. And the email came in a way where there was no denying that it was true. And it really shook up everything for me, because here I am thinking that I'm living this very nice sort of quiet, regular life. And I come to find out that the person who I'm with was not who I thought I was with, and what was happening in our relationship was not actually what I thought was happening in our relationship. And there was betrayal on many, many different levels. So, personal betrayal, there was financial betrayal, everything. And it rocked my world to such a state, especially because I had just moved to Florida. So I didn't have like those old friends around you that have known you forever. I didn't have many friends at all because I had just moved here. And unfortunately, the situation became, my daughter at the time was at a private school. So everybody knew, sort of, and I found out that everybody knew but me for a long time what was going on. So it was really like a big wake up call to, whoa, everything is not what I think it is, number one. And number two, gosh, everyone knows about this, and everyone knew before I did. So talk about uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I also at the time was not sort of self-sufficient. And I say that with air quotes only because I was raising my daughter and I was coaching part-time, but not in a sense of it actually being a career where it would sustain me. So there was just a lot of scary all at one time. And, initially when something big like this happens, I remember my first thought was, as scary as it was, my first thought was, I'm not a victim. And I am not going to be a victim.
Wow.
Yeah, it was interesting, but that was truly my first thought, because I had had enough of an understanding to know that this situation was my teacher, and to also know that, again, I was not being victimized. As scary as it was, I knew enough at that point to know that I was still okay. Even though it looked like I wasn't, and it looked like everything was upside down, which it was, I knew enough to understand that there was a bigger picture here, that it wasn't what was happening face value, that there was something much bigger and much deeper actually transpiring.
Yeah.
So I stayed for 2 years and did the whole, counseling and, forgiveness and seeing the situation through the eyes of love, which I highly recommend because that's what everything is. Everything is love. When it looks really, really scary,
Wow.
there is love. And it's not the responsibility for the love to come from outside of us. It's the responsibility for us to see that that is what we're made of. But the beauty of the story is that one day, when at face value, if we looked at a piece of paper and wrote down the situation, it looked like I was stuck. And that's the biggest, if there's one thing that I think is so important to share, is that we're actually never stuck. It looked like I was stuck. And I can absolutely 100% understand how everyone at some period and point in their life feels as though that is true. But I got a wake-up call, and it was like literally like I woke up and I realized, oh my goodness, I have no idea how I am going to make it on my own, how I am going to support myself, how I'm going to support my daughter. I had nothing to my name. I had less than nothing. Okay. Like it was really, really extreme. And I had come from a background of, I was making six figures in my mid-20s, by my mid-20s. So I was able to sustain myself and take care of myself. And I always had great credit. And when I had said that there was betrayal on a large level, everything was stripped.
Wow.
So I really, really had nothing. But it was like there was something so much greater than what this monkey mind can make up that said to me, you're okay, and you will figure out a way, and you can leave. So I left with nothing. I took my daughter's bedroom furniture and I took a cabinet, and it was like one thing became available after another. Things started showing up as far as places for me to live and, opportunities for work. And it was just like one thing led to another, and everything started to snowball when I lifted the veil of I'm stuck. So, that's really the important part of the story, I think, is that when we can see beyond our story, when we can see beyond what looks current, true, and real, when we can see that there is so much more than meets the eye, everything is possible. And opportunities started showing up left and right. I mean, it was one thing after another as far as places for me to live, people gifting me furniture and not asking for anything, like never saying I need help. It was like I just started getting phone calls of, hey, can you cat sit for me for 2 weeks? I mean, really funny, silly things like that, where I had a place to stay. And then I got a phone call from a friend who did not know what was going on, because I did not, even though a lot of people did know what was happening, I did not advertise it.
Okay.
So I got a phone call from a dear friend of mine who was supposed to move to Palm Beach. She had redone her whole place and decided at the 11th hour not to move in. And she called me up and she said, I'm going to sell this place. I've already ordered furniture. It's on its way. I want to have it delivered to you. It's a gift. I mean, those were the kind of things that were happening.
Wow.
And it was one thing after another. It was truly amazing. I mean, I didn't have any credit. And I remember telling this real estate agent, because I needed a place to live, here's my situation. And he just said to me, look, we can just talk to the owners and see what they say. And they said, fantastic, come and live here. I mean, it was one thing after another where, like I said, on paper, it looked like it was impossible. So nothing is ever impossible. I'm living proof that nothing is ever impossible, because it looked like I was stuck.
Yeah.
But once I saw, and again, it was just, we're always one thought away from something fresh and new. Always, always, always.
Yeah.
So that one thought was there. And again, it was one foot in front of the other. It was faith. It was trust. And things just started to work out for me. It was really amazing. And I think what was really so beautiful and magical is that I was truly able to forgive, let go, and move forward and see this person as they are in this moment.
Absolutely.
Rather than holding on to what had happened in the past, or my story about what could have been, or what I could have had, or what could have happened. Truly just able to see the situation as it is today without any of the stuff. And I'm very, very grateful for that, because I know that that's what holds a lot of us back, is hanging on to what you did to me. And again, I just don't believe, sure, things happen that we don't like, but that word victim will only get in the way of us seeing our own magnificence and our greatness. And I believe from above the maze, from a much higher level, that we have agreements with people to learn things, that there are things that we come to the planet to learn. And in order to learn them, it's not always going to be, sunshine and rainbows and roses and chocolates and flowers, all those things that are lovely and delicious.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. However, in order for us to truly learn and grow and see who we are, a lot of times we're going to have to be, face situations that look unfair.
Yeah.
But there is a light. There is a light.
So how were you able to see or have that insight during this time? Did you have a mentor? Were you reading a book? Were you doing personal development? Or you just knew, mom, who?
Yes, at the time I was looking in this direction. So I had been studying with Dr. Robert Holden. I'd done a couple courses with him. I had read, you know, you name it. I mean, Marianne Williamson and Wayne Dyer, and trying to think of who else I was reading at the time. Deepak Chopra at the time. I can't. Those were like the main people who, at the time, I was looking in the direction with them. But also, I was studying with Dr. Robert Holden. I had also done some work with Mark Matusik, who's an author, who is another wonderful, amazing human. And so I knew that what was happening, that there was something for me to see. I knew there was something for me to see. But I didn't have a particular, like, I wasn't working with someone saying, this is what's happening in my life. Can you help me? I was working on understanding more about me and why I'm here and what this is all about. So I was looking in the direction of truth, of spirituality. And I believe that a continued devotion to the understanding of who we truly are was what woke me up. Because literally what happened was, you know, we had gotten in an argument. We were on our way to therapy and we had gotten in an argument, and he left, and there I was in Boca by myself. This was before Uber, you know, so it was kind of like, oh, okay, what am I going to, you know, how am I going to get home? You know, all these things. But at that moment when that happened, I said, I'm done. I knew it. I knew it was over. It was actually interesting. Let me deepen this, because it was kind of a cool situation. I was doing groups at the time. I was working in a treatment center, and I was coaching and also leading groups for people with addictions and also dual diagnosis. And I had done a group. I can't remember if it was that night or the night before. And I remember there was this guy that always came to my groups on a Wednesday or Thursday night. And he was always telling a story about his girlfriend and how, you know, there was always a problem. And I said to him, why do you stay? And he said, I stay because I'm not done learning. And I'll never forget that. He has since passed away. And so I'm sending him love and blessings as we're talking about him. But I never forgot that. You know, I never forgot that. And I remember that moment when I decided it was time to go. I knew that I had gotten the learning out of it. Like, I knew there was nothing more for us to learn with one another in the capacity the relationship was in at the moment. So that was really my wake up. I was like, oh, I'm done here. I'm done here.
Wow.
I forgive you.
I can totally feel that.
Yeah. I accept it. I accept the situation. I accept you and I.
Wow.
And I forgive this. I forgive everything about it. And I felt very released.
Wow.
And that was the moment I knew, I don't have to stay anymore. And I didn't know the how part. But once I knew that I didn't have to stay, that I was free, because again, where do we experience freedom? We experience freedom, you know, in between here, right? That's where freedom is.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes to be able to see, well, to take a leap of faith, and also to be able to see that something fresh and new is available.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, I want to ask and have you expand a little bit, because, you know, individuals listening, they can, I think that you did a really good job of explaining all of that. And I'm not done learning that hit me. I totally get that and see that. But to the point of you saying, everything is love.
Yeah.
Kind of have a hard time with that, because when you're in the midst of heartache or frustration or being lied to, it could be hard to find love.
Sure.
So how were you able to do that?
You know, I knew, it's interesting. I knew from a very young age that there was so much more than what meets the eye in life. And I read the book, Many Lives, Many Masters, which was really like my wake up call when I was in my 30s. And the book is about reincarnation, but it wasn't the reincarnation that really got me. It was the reason that we're here. And the reason that we're here is to love. that is our essence. That's who we are. That is all that there is. And when I read that in the book, I knew it was true. It was like that. Yes, it was confirmation that I no longer wanted to be in the world of marketing, and I wanted to be in the world of happiness and joy and truth and possibilities. So even though I was going through, and again, the betrayal was on many different levels. It had legs to it. It had family legs to it. It had a lot of legs.
Yeah.
And there was just something underlying where I knew there was an okayness that I could not put into words. So even though on the surface, looking for love felt, how could this be made of love? There was something where I knew that I was meant to experience this. There was a deep learning for me, and that I was okay. So that okayness for me, that is love. And it was proven to me. I think that the caveat here is to know there is love, and then we'll see it. We can't, if we look for it on the outside, good luck. But
Got it.
when we know that that's our essence,
Okay.
it will mirror itself back to us. And that was the experience. There was something underlying that I just knew, as awful as it was and as scary as it was, I knew there was something so much deeper that was holding everything together. There was a gel that was holding everything together. And any judgments that I would have about it would be coming from my made-up construct, which says good, bad, right, wrong. But, when you go above the maze, everything is okay. Everything is okay, because this is all a temporary experience.
Yeah.
Now, we might not like it all the time, but there is a temporary nature to it. And I think that the more that we can grab onto that essence, what happens is our energy rises anyway, our vibration, our vibe rises, our frequency, whatever word, feels good for you. And when our frequency rises, again, like attracts like. So we will attract better circumstances that feel better. We'll be able to see the light in everything, even when it feels and looks very dark.
Can you expand on what you were saying with the good, bad, right, wrong?
Yeah. Our personality judges good, bad, right, wrong based on our past conditioning. So really silly and simple. But because we're brought up here in the United States, we have ideas of good, bad, right, wrong. If we were brought up in a different culture, the world will look different to us. So for instance, if you're brought up in a culture where you take off your shoes when you walk in the house, you just do that, and you know to do that. Now, if someone comes into your home from a different culture and doesn't take off their shoes, you've automatically judged them as wrong and bad, right? If that's how you grow up.
Yeah.
Now, the person that doesn't take off their shoes came from a different culture and has no idea that they are insulting you terribly. It's a really simple way to look at it. But again, because of the way that we are brought up and conditioned in the world, we make up good, bad, right, wrong. So again, I'm going way above the maze here, because obviously we can look at what's going on in the world and have a lot of judgments and thoughts about it. I don't want to go down that road. I'm just, just for a common sense, right? Yeah. However, when we go above the maze and see, again, the temporary nature of this, that our personalities, our made-up construct, is what's creating how we're feeling. It takes the pressure off of the world having to look a certain way in order for us to be okay.
Definitely. I can totally see that. I remember there was a friend of mine whose stepfather was Japanese. Mm-hmm. And when I went to their home for the first time after they were married, I didn't take off my shoes, because in my house, you took off the shoes if you were about to get onto the carpet, but you did not take off your shoes in the kitchen.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
because it was just an open area where we were. And he got not mad at me, but when we left, a phone call to my friend, and I heard him yelling to her about how the fact that I didn't take off my shoes. And I felt, and it was so awkward for like a month after that one, because we were best friends. I'd go to her house all the time, but it was so awkward because I'm like the nicest, most kind, especially back then. Like I was so innocent and like had not a bone in my body that was mean. And I felt so bad. But yeah, totally offended at the shoe thing.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. So that translates into our world. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It translates into how we show up in the world. And then we judge it. And then we put conditions on life. And all that does is cause us pain, frankly, and create a restriction for us. And create what I like to say is like a mental handicap. So we walk around with this mental handicap with all of these rules and regulations that hold us back from being in the world in a state of acceptance. Does not mean we put up with something that we don't like.
Yeah.
But what it means is that whatever it is that we want to make a change regarding, we make it from a foundation of love, from like a platform of love and acceptance, rather than from a stressed mindset, which will only cause more stress for us.
Absolutely. What about to people who do feel stuck? Like really do feel stuck?
Yeah, I get it. If you think that there aren't moments in my own life, knowing all of this, being completely devoted to this understanding that I don't feel stuck, you're wrong, okay? Because it's part of our human experience that we will get into the muck, that we, fall into the maze, that we fall into this black hole of thought. So what I would say to someone that's experiencing stuckness is, have you ever felt unstuck? In fact, I just, working with a new client yesterday, and I haven't met someone that has said to me that they've never felt unstuck, luckily. So remembering that you've had the experience of a freer mind.
Okay.
That's the beginning. Because once we know, oh, it's attainable because I've experienced it before, then we can start to look at the nature of what stuck means. Stuck means we have a lot of thinking going on that's like tar. Okay. The thinking feels heavy. It's tar is the word that's showing up for me right now. But that tar is temporary. The less we hang on to it. So when we understand the nature of how our mind works, when we understand that we are always experiencing thought in the moment, always, 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 that thought is going to look different based on our state of mind. So if we're in a really good state of mind and somebody comes to our home and frankly, we think that they're rude, it's not the end of the world. We're like, well, they don't have the same manners that I do, or they were raised a little bit differently, but you know what? We had a great time. Now, if we're in a bad mood, a low state of mind, and somebody comes to our house and we think that they're rude, that will color our entire experience of the day.
Yeah.
So having an understanding of how this works is really helpful, because then we know that we're never actually trapped, that we experience states of mind, and our state of mind can feel very, very, very heavy. But here's the thing, is that the less we hang on to, so the less we are tied to the story behind the heaviness. This is really important to understand. The less we are tied to the story behind the heaviness, the easier it has a chance to move. And we will again experience a freer state of mind. Where we get ourselves into trouble is that we feel this heaviness and this stuckness, and we label it. We give it a story, and we give that story meaning. When we give it meaning, what we're doing is we're actually aggravating it. We're making it bigger. Now, we can all do this. We're in a low state of mind, and let me tell you why I'm in a low state of mind. But it's not helpful. Here's the thing, is that once we rise above that, and we will, the less we hang on to it, if there's something to do about what looked like a problem in the low state of mind, we will very clearly see that from above the maze, from a good state of mind.
Okay.
And we'll be clear and we'll know what to do, and it won't come from a place of heartache and struggle. So when we're feeling stuck, see if you can remember a time when you were not stuck. Okay? Because just knowing, I have had freedom of mind in my life,
Okay.
is really helpful. Really, really helpful. So given that, we know that our mindset is like water. It flows, it flows, it flows. So given that, the less we hang on to the story. So again, we want to allow the feelings to pour through us. I don't subscribe to ignore how you feel. That's not helpful. We want to allow those feelings to move through us without the story. So we're feeling the feelings. We're allowing ourselves to feel that beautiful humanness.
Yeah.
Without attaching it to a story. That's how we transmute the experience. We keep things alive by going back and ruminating over them.
Just to make it clear for the audience, when you say story, what does that mean? How are we creating a story that is aggravating the situation to make us feel stuck? What can you give us, like a pretend example or something of a story that we're making up?
Okay, so a story is, my husband pissed me off. Okay. He was supposed to be home at 6, and I made dinner, and he showed up at 9. Okay. I'm angry.
Yeah.
Because I made dinner. I went to the fresh market and I got all his favorite stuff.
Yeah.
And I came home and I stopped my work day early, and I set the table and I lit candles, and I got this new recipe because I know it's his favorite. And I waited and I waited and I waited. Okay. You've seen it in every movie, right?
Yeah.
He comes home at 9. Ooh, I am not happy. Okay. Why am I not happy? Well, because you didn't show up when you said you did. I put all this work and effort into it. I set my day aside to do this, whatever. That's a story about why I'm angry. Okay. Does not mean it's not true. Does not mean the incidents didn't happen. But the story behind it, I'm owning. Okay. Now that story, if I choose to hang on to it, will keep me stuck.
Okay. This just happened to me.
Get out.
Can I share?
Of course you can.
Okay. So, went up to visit some friends in Titusville.
Oh, that's a real place in Maryland, isn't it?
Yes. So, no, well, we were in Florida.
Oh, in Florida. What am I saying? It is in Florida. I think I've seen it off of 95.
Yeah. Titusville. It's a small little town. So we're just going for the weekend. And I broke my leg in October 2020. I was a spin instructor / cyclist. I was on the bike like crazy. Broke my leg in October 2020, middle of the pandemic, whole story, doesn't matter. But I haven't been on a bike since. Okay. I've taken one spin class in 2 years. So I'm told that we're driving up there. We're going to hang out, eat dinner, do some stuff. And in the excursion is a bike ride. And my fiance is a huge cyclist. And he's like, we're going for a bike ride, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be fun. And I'm like, okay, cool. But like, I'm not doing any more than 15 miles because like, it's hot out. I haven't done this before. I don't have all my gear. I've gained weight. Nothing fits me. Like all my little bike stuff doesn't fit me. So he's like, yeah. 15 miles, totally. Cool. So I'm like, okay, go. So day comes for the cycle ride. We're all ready. I got my helmet on. We're good to go. And we head out on the bike ride and I'm doing good. We're chatting, we're talking, we're on a path. It's beautiful and sunny. I'm all smiles, all good. All of a sudden, I now know 17 miles in. I'm like, I'm good. Like, I could go now. Like, I could be done now. We're good. I didn't know it was 17 miles in, but I felt like we need to turn around. Like, my leg is starting to throb. My ass is starting to hurt because I don't have a little cushion thing. And so I voice it like, hey, everyone knew the situation. And they're like, yeah. Totally. We'll be turning around soon. 5 more miles forward, not back. 5 more miles forward. And by this time, my whole mindset is like starting to kind of like switch because I'm also hurting. My hands hurt, my butt hurts, my feet hurt, my leg hurts.
Yeah.
So finally we turn around. About 2 miles in, I could just feel everything. My whole body was just pissed. And so my fiance, obviously, he can read me. We're both empaths, or identifies an empath. And he could see it on my face. So we switch, things, people go up, he comes down, and we're like side by side. And he's like, are you okay? And I was like, don't talk to me. And he's like, oh my gosh, what's wrong? And I'm like, are you serious right now? We're 20 miles. We've been driving you told me 15, we're 20 miles, and we're still like 20 miles from home.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? Like, I have to get home. And he's like, I can call you an Uber. I'm like, we'll call you an Uber. How about that?
Yeah.
So it was this whole thing. At one point, I literally started crying, like actual tears, because I'm painful. I'm also just hurt. Like, my feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
I've been put in this situation. I'm not keeping track of the miles. I was expecting him to keep track of the miles. And we could have turned around, just the two of us, and gone home because of what he said. And then we get to this hill. There's this one hill, not an actual hill, but like this bridge that you have to go over.
Yeah.
And I get off my bike because I literally, my legs, my knees, I just couldn't do it. I'm just not physically there yet with obviously I haven't been on a bike. No excuses. Like, I just couldn't do it. So I get off my bike and he's with me, and I just broke down and just like, all dramatic, like, and all the excuses, the story, like, you told me this, my pedals, my pads, I don't have gloves, like, it's hot out. I didn't bring water for 40 miles. I brought water for 10 miles because that's what you told me, or 15. And we're walking. He's apologized. I'm so sorry, this and that. And I had to make a decision on whether or not I was going to like keep this mood and hold it against him for the rest of the day and be all snooty and angry pants, or just is what it is. And so I, while walking up this hill, I'm like, let me just reset, please. We're not going to talk about this anymore. You're not going to ask me if I'm okay. You're not going to ask, like, make any insinuations about me being upset or pissed or angry or mad or nothing. Don't ask me. Don't look at me weird. Nothing for the rest of this trip. So he's like, okay, yeah, no problem. So I'm like, let me just gather myself, because I'm all red. I'm crying. Like, it's this whole thing. So I have to like stop, like take some deep breaths, like tell myself that I'm strong and that I'm capable. And, he's silent, and I'm fanning myself to get myself ready. And we get to the top of the hill. I get back on my bike and we go home. And I'm mad. Like, I'm super mad. We get back to their house, and I had to like decide whether or not I was going to hold that against him for the rest of the day and be like cold or not. So at one point, we're sitting down, we showered, I'm sitting down on the couch, and he's like standing over me. And normally we're very touchy. We're both love languages, physical touch. And I would normally have touched him, but I was like, no, I'm not touching him. And I had to make a choice. And I leaned up and I touched his leg. And then at that point, he realized that like I was going to put this away. And he sat down next to me, put his arm around me, and we just went off. And that whole thing that could have in my past, like years ago, because I've been doing this work for a while, but in the past would have been a whole day of coldness. I decided to only let it last, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I get it. That was good. Yeah.
That's huge.
For the story.
Yeah. That's huge.
So I didn't
Huge.
let the story.
Yeah, that's huge. Really huge.
Very cool. And definitely something that people need to hear
Mhm.
and understand.
Yeah. Yeah,
'Cause
because
if
you
we
would have
do
suffered
that
the rest of the day.
yeah,
And you don't want to suffer. You're on vacation. You don't
yeah,
want to suffer anyway.
yeah,
But that's where we get caught up is like we think, well, I'm going to make that person pay, but meanwhile we're suffering.
yeah.
Yeah.
100. Yeah, and it would have been weird on both ends because I would have wanted at
Mhm.
one point to like lighten up and then, but it's like, well, how long is that? I want to ask, what's the number one lesson you've learned about life?
Hmm. You're going to laugh, but I would say it's not to take it so seriously.
I love that.
Yeah.
We do that too much.
Mhm. Yeah. And it keeps us from happiness. It keeps us from going with the flow. It keeps us from experiencing our natural joy, from our potential. It just holds us back.
When
So
you
the
realize
more when did I realize that?
that.
Oh, recently. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a constant evolution. I don't take a break from inquiring into our truth, you know, self-discovery. There's no break for me on that. So I'm fascinated by this whole human experience thing and our spiritual nature. So it's really been recent that I've realized the lightness of life when we allow it, the lightness that is available for us to experience. So I just see, not to take it so seriously, because when we take things seriously, we actually create a resistance to whatever is occurring. But when we allow there to be light, there's always a solution. There's always a solution, but it's a lot easier for us to see the solution when we're not attached to a particular outcome.
Definitely. What do you wish for?
The first thing that came to mind was happiness. Happiness. I mean, that was, even as a kid, I wanted so bad for everyone to be happy. I was the kid who would go sit in the back of the bus to the kids that nobody wanted to talk to. Maybe they had a mental handicap or something. And I was the one that would go back and talk to them because I just wanted people to feel
Wow.
good. I've always been like that. I'm like the person who knows everything about the clerk at Wawa. It's like, I've just always seen the beauty in people. And I think that's why I did very well when I worked in the treatment center, because, a lot of these people had really rough backgrounds and they were on their way to jail and things like that. But I didn't want to know what they did. I just wanted to see them in the moment and see the spark in their eyes and see the love that's within them, because I knew it was there.
Yeah.
So that's what I wish for everyone is happiness, is just to be in joy, to experience their natural joy.
Do you think everyone wants happiness?
Probably. I mean, it's kind of like when you ask somebody, well, what do you want? They'll say, well, I want to be happy, So, yeah, I think, when you say, what do you wish for your kids? Well, I want them to be happy. What do you wish for your parents? I want them to be happy.
How many ways to happiness do you think there are?
The word infinite comes to mind, because we get to decide what that means for us. But it's not in things. It looks like it's in things, but we always put the cart before the horse. It's when we expose that is what is within us naturally, the things occur. They just occur in ways that we can't explain. So I think we're moving so quickly that we forget the glory of this experience, you know, because we're moving so quickly. We forget how amazing life actually is, because we don't slow down enough or give it enough attention to see that natural joy is already here, that we are a part of that.
Definitely. 100. Well, first of all, I want to thank those of you that are listening live. Thank you so much for being here and hanging out with Andrea and I while we chit chat and learn some awesome things about her experience and her journey. For those of you watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay so that we know that you were here and we can send you some love on whatever platform you're listening on. But I want to ask Andrea, can you tell us what you do, your business? I know we have your website above your head area right there. Can you let us know what your business is, what you do, who you help, and how we can contact you?
So our business is, we own a coaching business, and we do retreats. Our next retreat is in January. And we also do private personal coaching. I work with a lot of mostly women, not just women. My new client yesterday was a man, but mostly women. And a lot of times it's people that are in transition. So they've already kind of, maybe ticked a lot of the boxes. They're usually pretty financially secure. They're in a relationship. Maybe they're not, but, they've sort of hit that career spot, but they want to change. They're looking for something different. They're looking to feel better. Maybe they're feeling stuck in a relationship or in their job, or, their kids have just, left. Their kids are going to college, something like that. So I help a lot of people just to see the path that's already there for them. And also share with them how this works, so we don't get so caught up in that, so that we can experience joy and happiness now without there having to be a condition on it. My husband and I also wrote a program for teens. So I work with a lot of teens, and we just launched our program online where teens can do the program online in a group. So that's been really exciting. And that I feel very passionate about, because so many kids are experiencing anxiety and depression. And we have run a lot of kids through our program. We were able to do a focus group with 64 kids. The outcome was astounding. The kids had a 67% increase in the ability to handle stress well, kids that have gone through our program. So if your teen or young adult is suffering anxiety or depression, or just having a hard time with peer pressure, you can, on our website, under there's a teen coaching tab. We do have personal private programs, but we also work with groups and organizations. And so that's our thing. We work with adults, we work with teens, and we run retreats. And it's all about, how can we are here having this experience. How can we make it better? How can we have more of who we truly are in our everyday life? So that's what we do.
I love that. And then social media, where are you most active?
I would say Facebook. I'm getting more active on Instagram. And so anyway, yes, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I also have a LinkedIn where Shift Happens Global. And we're really excited about upcoming retreats that we're doing. We're yoga, meditation, breath work, and also having this understanding. So just, the whole idea of our Shift Happens retreats is that you go on vacation and you come back to your life with a whole different mindset. And that's where everything's possible. So thank you for asking.
Yes. I love that. What's your biggest goal for Shift Happens Globally?
It's to get this program to kids, because they are our foundation. They are our future. So imagine if they had a solid foundation of peace of mind and then went to school, had a solid foundation of peace of mind, of mental well-being, which is already there. All we're doing is uncovering it. They wouldn't go to school as a wet sponge with battling so many thoughts in their head. They'd go to school as a dry sponge, where they're able to learn because they're coming from a solid, clear foundation. So, this understanding is universal for everyone, but wouldn't it be cool to get it to the younger generation. So that's really where my heart and soul is.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
Speaking directly to the females who are listening here live or on a replay, what would be some advice that you would give someone who just doesn't seem to be able to find happiness now for a few years?
Well, sign up for our newsletter because I think it would be helpful, but truly take the pressure off of yourself. That's where we get into trouble, is we put so much pressure on ourselves for the future. And our peace is now. And I think what gets in the way of experiencing that, even though my circumstances might be crap, I'm okay, is all the pressure that we put on ourselves. So the first step would be to take the pressure off of things having to be different. And from that foundation of acceptance, things as a result of taking the pressure off will shift, and you will be guided. It's just a matter of listening to that inner guidance that we all have.
100%. Totally agree. Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. Thank you so much for being here, Andrea. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to hang out with me and share some of your goodies for those of you that resonated with Andrea and her storytelling and the nuggets of information that she gave us today. Make sure that you connect with her. Her website is right above her head, and I'm sure all of her social media is on that website to be able to connect with her. So thank you so much for joining us here. Those of you watching live and on the replay, this community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, make sure you reach out to me here at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others as